tragedy strikes our girl's syndicate when her father figure boss is brutally murdered. Amidst the chaos, her handler steps in with a crucial piece of intel. The mastermind is the untouchable Chairman Lee. To get revenge, her handler points her to the chairman's hidden heir, currently attending the exclusive Chaebol High School. Since a direct assault is impossible, our girl makes her choice. She'll infiltrate the elite school, hunt down the oblivious heir, and make Chairman Lee pay. Armed with barely any clues, she steps into the fiercely hierarchical campus. Hiding her deadly aura, she prepares to navigate this dangerous undercover game. However, trouble finds our girl immediately when a pink-haired heiress crashes into her. The spoiled girl throws a massive tantrum until the teacher finally intervenes. Introduced by the teacher, Daekyung faces her new classmates with an absolute poker face. She quietly takes her seat, just wanting to keep a low profile. But peace was never an option. The pink-haired girl marches right up to her desk, arrogantly demanding a formal apology for the morning's little accident. Realizing Daekyung lacks any powerful background, the bullies confidently label her as a bottom-tier level 4. It looks like this heiress is dead set on teaching our girl a harsh lesson. Our girl Daekyung just transferred to this Chaebol High School, only to be slapped with the lowest rank, level 4. This immediately draws the unwanted attention of Jiyeon, the pink-haired mean girl. Jiyeon and her lackeys try to put Daekyung in her place. But as a top-tier agent, our girl couldn't care less about this childish bullying. To Daekyung, the only thing that matters right now is lunchtime. Putting her mission on hold, she happily secures her roasted meat, ready to enjoy a rare peaceful meal. But the peace doesn't last. Jiyeon intentionally bumps into Daekyung, ruining her precious lunch. Seeing her meal destroyed, Daekyung's calm demeanor instantly freezes over. Staring at the ruined meat, Daekyung's hidden assassin instincts awaken. The oblivious lackey even arrogantly demands the rest of her food, completely unaware she's flirting with death. Oblivious to the danger, Jiyeon gets physical. This blatant provocation pushes Daekyung over the edge. Gripping her fork like a weapon, she is ready to end them right now. Just as blood is about to spill, an urgent warning from her handler snaps her back. Forcing down her killing intent, Daekyung uses a lightning-fast hidden maneuver to trip the bullies instead. To hide her identity, our girl forced down her killer instincts and subtly tripped the pink-haired bully instead. This seemingly accidental fall scared the bully to tears, leaving the bystanders completely dumbfounded. Looking at the terrified bullies slumped on the floor, Daekyung massaged her temples, trying to calm her almost out-of-control temper. At least she managed to smooth things over for now. However, her clean and subtle moves still caught someone's eye. A blonde guy approached her with a bright smile, amazed by her quick reflexes, and eagerly asked to be friends. Faced with this overly enthusiastic guy, alarm bells instantly went off in Daekyung's head. She listened coldly to his excited rambling, completely unsure of what expression she should even make. After some persistence, the blonde guy smoothly pulled out his phone to ask for her number. Following her agent protocol to investigate suspicious targets, Daekyung suppressed her discomfort and took his phone expressionlessly. Amidst the gossiping students, Daekyung quickly typed in her number, just wanting to escape. When he pushed his luck and invited her to hang out, our cold-blooded agent flatly refused and walked away without hesitation. Faced with the blonde guy's overly enthusiastic invitation for a walk, our girl's agent senses tingle. Instead of swooning, she bluntly rejects him without hesitation. To completely shake off this troublesome guy, she sprints to a quiet corner before quickly calling her handler to dig into his background. Hearing the name Han Jong-woon, the handler immediately starts typing away on his laptop, trying to hack into the school's database. However, the school security system is so tight that he can't find any real personal info. This leaves our girl seriously questioning her partner's hacking skills. With no intel available, her unreliable handler actually suggests using high school romance tactics, like inviting the boy for ramen to gather clues. Our girl is left utterly speechless. On top of that, he strongly urges her to make a close female friend to tap into campus gossip. Faced with this ridiculous romantic plan, she tiredly hangs up the phone. Just as she is pondering how to deal with that mysterious guy, a fierce argument breaks out nearby. It turns out the pink-haired rich girl from before is furiously shouting at some boys. Instead of backing down, the boys arrogantly taunt her with a phone, clearly blackmailing her with stolen photos. It seems the real trouble is just brewing in the shadows. Ji-yeon is cornered by some school thugs threatening to ruin her reputation with an embarrassing photo. Fortunately, our girl Daekyung happens to be walking by and observes everything. Facing relentless taunting from the bullies, Ji-yeon is left completely helpless and on the verge of tears. But just as the leader thinks he's won, the tables turn. Seeing a perfect chance to recruit an informant, Dae-kyung steps in. She effortlessly locks down the bully's wrist with an iron grip, leaving the stunned Ji-yeon frozen in place. Humiliated, the leader tries to act tough, but Dae-kyung simply ignores his tantrums. She snatches the phone and hands it to Ji-yeon, pushing the furious thug right over the edge. Big mistake. Our girl effortlessly dodges the strike and lands a brutal counterattack, knocking the guy out cold in a single hit. The overwhelming display leaves his lackeys terrified. With the photo successfully deleted, Dae-kyung simply turns and leaves. Just like that, the former bully becomes our protagonist's loyal and indebted follower. Meanwhile, the panicked lackeys scramble to wake up their sleeping boss, Jae-hyung, hastily reporting how their guy just got destroyed. It looks like a much bigger storm is approaching. Rumors about the mysterious transfer student are flying around the campus, but our girl Dae-kyung couldn't care less. She's just chilling on the steps, happily munching on her snacks, leaving the pink-haired heiress speechless. A careless bump while eating leads to a rare, awkward apology from Dae-kyung. Seeing Ji-yeon flustered yet pridefully accepting it, the tension between the two girls finally begins to thaw into something like friendship. With the ice broken, the gossipy Ji-yeon playfully asks about Dae-kyung's thoughts on Han Jong-woon. Hearing Dae-kyung calmly label him as a bit sly completely fuels Ji-yeon's desire to share some juicy school history. According to Ji-yeon, it all started on the first day of school. Senior bullies came to intimidate the freshmen, and due to accidentally blocking their way, the ever-smiling Jong-woon unfortunately caught their hostile attention. Classified as the lowest tier due to his unknown background, Jong-woon became an easy target for the arrogant rich kids. Despite being constantly bullied and treated like a human target, he always brushed it off with a smile. However, everyone has a breaking point. During an art class, the bullies went too far by dumping a bucket of cold water over his head. Soaked and humiliated, the usually cheerful boy's aura finally began to shift. Sitting on the steps, Ji-yeon shares a dark rumor with our girl. Word on the street is that a senior mysteriously vanished, and Han Jong-woon is the prime suspect. Right in the middle of their gossip, a casual voice praises their wild imagination. They freeze in pure terror, realizing the subject of their rumor is standing right there. Before anyone can process what's happening, Jong-woon grabs our girl's hand and pulls her away for a private chat, leaving a very confused Ji-yeon behind. Cornering her against the wall, he completely ignores her cold interrogation. Instead, he drops a massive flirt bomb, smoothly confessing his interest in her. Faced with his unexpected boldness, our girl's mind races. To figure out his true intentions, she decides to play along and throw a curveball of her own. Blushing deeply and stumbling over her words, she looks down and drops the ultimate, awkward invitation. Do you want to come over for some ramen before you go? The smooth guy instantly short-circuits at her bold offer. Realizing how adorably awkward she is, he completely loses his composure and bursts out laughing. When our boy playfully invites her over for ramen, Dae-kyung shyly accepts on the outside, but she's secretly plotting to use this chance to dig up his background. Walking together, the guy is clearly a bit flattered. He can't help but wonder why she suddenly changed her tune after avoiding him for days. Dae-kyung tests the waters by asking about his parents, only to find out he lives completely alone. This revelation catches even our elite agent off guard. Stepping into a mysterious guy's house is definitely risky. But to uncover his true identity, she bites the bullet and carefully peeks inside as he opens the door. The place is suspiciously spotless, not looking like a typical teenager's room at all. He warmly hands her a drink while she silently scans the area for clues. Seizing the moment, he turns his back. Dae-kyung swiftly plugs a hacker USB into his desktop, her sharp eyes immediately locking onto an old photo album on the shelf. Flipping through the album, she finds nothing but solo shots of him. What's even weirder is his monotone, copy-and-paste blank expression in every single picture. The complete lack of family photos raises major red flags. Just as she pieces things together, he casually cooks ramen in the kitchen, completely unaware of the psychological game at play. Just as our girl is about to enjoy her ramen, she accidentally spills the boiling hot soup all over Jong-woon. They rush to the bathroom to cool the burn, though luckily, he dodged the worst of it. Staring at a half-naked Jong-woon, our girl realizes he's hiding a surprisingly ripped physique. But just as she gets a little too curious, a blushing Jong-woon completely loses his cool and kicks her out of the bathroom. Once Jong-woon comes out in fresh clothes, our girl steps up to check his burns. But just as she confirms it's not serious, her sharp eyes catch something unusual hidden under his shirt. Without hesitation, she lifts his shirt, exposing the thick disguise padding wrapped around his torso. Completely busted, a panicked Jong-woon has no choice but to sit at the desk like a suspect under interrogation. Trying to cover up his fake identity, this guy starts putting on a dramatic sob story. He even tries to turn the tables, loudly accusing her of investigating him, which only earns him a massive eye roll. After the dramatic scene, they sit back down to subtly probe each other. Jong-woon casually asks about her transfer, but our girl is airtight, smoothly reciting her pre-planned fake backstory. When Jong-woon casually assumes her parents are great people, the brutal murder of her father figure boss flashes through her mind. Suppressing her burning hatred, her eyes turn ice cold as she gives a brief, quiet response. Having successfully secured the USB drive with the intel, our girl Dikyoung decides her mission for the day is complete and prepares to leave. Hearing she's leaving, Jong-woon smiles mysteriously and asks if she even knows the hidden meaning behind eating ramen at a guy's place, leaving her completely confused. As he cheekily explains the romantic innuendo, her brain short-circuits. Once the realization finally hits, her face instantly turns bright red like a tomato. Burning with embarrassment, she furiously curses whoever taught her that phrase. Just as Jong-woon tries to make her stay, her ringing phone interrupts the awkward tension. She ducks into the bathroom to take the call, but the shocking news from the other end instantly drains the color from her face. Realizing something is terribly wrong, she blurts out a quick apology and bolts out the door like lightning, leaving Jong-woon staring blankly at the empty bathroom. Dikyoung sprints frantically down the street, her mind racing. She can't fathom who could have possibly uncovered their top-secret identities to launch a strike on her boss. Bursting through the office door, while screaming her boss's name, she is met with a chilling sight. The man who was like a father to her now slumps lifelessly, drenched in blood. Before our girl can even process the grief, a masked assassin suddenly swings a bat from her blind spot. She instinctively blocks the heavy strike, but the real threat lurking in the shadows has only just begun. A masked thug brutally strikes the girl's head, but she's no pushover. Fighting through the pain, she retaliates with a fierce swing, sending him crashing down before pinning him under her foot. Before she can extract any information, the defeated thug suddenly pulls out a knife to end his own life, causing the girls to scream in panic and try to stop him. While the mysterious hacker works in the shadows, our girl Dikyoung waits anxiously in the hospital. Seeing her heavily injured handler finally open his eyes brings her massive relief. Dikyoung quickly asks about the attack. Recalling the masked hacker who stole their data, the handler warns her that guessing is useless now, urging an immediate relocation to wipe their traces. Serious talk over, Dikyoung suddenly leans in to aggressively gossip about a past misunderstanding, making the wounded man scream. Still, stepping outside, she is deeply grateful he survived the ordeal. Walking alone into the quiet night, the cool breeze brushes her face. Memories of a gentle smile and past guidance surface in her mind, strengthening her resolve to uncover the dark truth. Surrounded by smoke on the rooftop, Dikyoung's thoughts drift back to her murdered boss. To get her revenge, she knows she can't waste any more time playing high school games. Just as she is about to leave, an unfamiliar voice calls out from behind. The boy not only drops her name, but sharply probes her true motives. Hearing the name Oh Jun, Dikyoung immediately recalls the arrogant bully she recently terrified. He had yelled something about owing his life to Jae-hyung, meaning this guy is no ordinary student. Dikyoung glares at him coldly, questioning why he defends such trash. Unbothered, the boy puts on a deep, self-righteous act, claiming he simply despises rich kids who abuse their power. Unimpressed by his lecture, Dikyoung casually snatches the cigarette right from his lips. Hearing him introduce himself as Lee Jae-young, she immediately locks onto that highly suspicious surname. Before walking away, Dikyoung drops the cigarette and leaves a patronizing smoke when you're older, kid. Leaving our boy completely bewildered. Who are you calling a kid? Aren't you a high schooler too? Just as the teacher announces the end of class, our girl Dikyoung is still fast asleep on her desk, completely ignoring the noise around her. Our boy gently leans in to wake her up. Dikyoung lifts her head, still half asleep and sporting a funny red mark on her cheek from the desk. He casually asks if she saw his message. Dikyoung checks her pockets, only to realize in a panic that her phone is missing. Amid her panic, our boy suddenly grabs her wrist. His usual gentle demeanor vanishes, replaced by a much more intriguing and intense gaze. Dikyoung instinctively tries to pull away, but finds his grip surprisingly strong. Faced with this sudden pressure, her eyes immediately turn sharp, making the tension skyrocket. Scene changes, and our guy stands with his arms crossed, mercilessly exposing Daekyung's clumsy lies. Caught red-handed, she nervously looks away, sweating heavily. Just as Daekyung struggles under his questioning, a phone on the table suddenly rings at the worst possible moment. The already nervous Daekyung knows this means trouble. Before she can react, our boy swiftly pins the ringing phone down. Seeing the name Jo Tae-woong on the screen, he narrows his eyes. That's the name of Daekyung's murdered handler. Panic flashes in Daekyung's eyes. Throwing her disguise out the window, she lunges from behind to snatch the phone back and protect her secret identity. However, using his height advantage, he simply holds the phone out of her reach. Looking down at her, he demands she tell the truth about who is really calling. Faced with his relentless pressure and demanding questions, Daekyung grinds her teeth in frustration. It seems keeping her identity hidden is going to be much harder than she thought. To snatch the device from Jongwon, our girl Daekyung leaps right at him. After a quick and intense struggle, she successfully grabs it back. But just as her momentum pins Jongwon to the floor, the door suddenly opens. The Chaebol heir Jae-young stands there, staring quietly at this highly compromising position as the air freezes. Oblivious to the awkwardness, Daekyung calmly checks her phone. Meanwhile, seeing Jae-young drinking coffee with a dark expression, Jongwon can't help but tease him, asking with a smirk if the young master is jealous. Exhausted by the boy's inexplicable banter, Daekyung slips out to find some food. Elsewhere, the gossipy heiress Ji-yeon is excitedly dragging her friends shopping when one of them suddenly runs off with a stomachache. Left alone, Ji-yeon suddenly recalls something terrifying. Just this morning, she received an urgent call from her father, revealing that their family business is facing a devastating financial crisis. The once pampered heiress who spent money like water now faces drastically cut allowances, about to become an isolated victim in the cruel storms of Chaebol politics. With her family business in trouble, the once arrogant Ji-yeon is instantly alienated by her clique. While hesitating with her lunch tray, she spots our girl Daekyung eating alone. Ji-yeon takes a seat opposite Daekyung and starts pouring out her grievances. Seeing the rich girl on the verge of tears, our usually cold-blooded agent is completely caught off guard. Determined to prove on social media that she's doing just fine, Ji-yeon stubbornly drags Daekyung into a post-school shopping trip. Facing this relentless nagging, Daekyung reluctantly agrees. After school, Ji-yeon drags Daekyung into a high-end boutique. But for a top-tier assassin used to combat gear, squeezing into restrictive dresses is basically pure torture. When Daekyung finally steps out in a stunning dress and heels, her elegant look leaves Ji-yeon speechless. However, hearing the $1,000,000 price tag definitely makes our girl's heart skip a beat. After the massive shopping spree, they head to a fancy restaurant. Initially awkward, Daekyung is instantly won over by the exquisite pasta and dives right into a feast. Watching Daekyung devour her food, Ji-yeon leans in to build rapport. She cleverly tests Daekyung's true background while smoothly spilling dark secrets about Wonjun's corrupt family business. At the cafe, Ji-yeon drops a bombshell on our girl. The seemingly ordinary Lee Jae-young is actually a hidden powerhouse feared by the top tier. This unexpected intel leaves her deep in thought. However, seeing her intense interest, Ji-yeon wildly misinterprets it as a secret crush. Knowing that explaining would only make things worse, our girl helplessly gives up trying to correct her. As night falls, our exhausted girl sits alone on a street bench to rest. Slipping off her painful high heel, she quietly sorts through tonight's intel, glad to have eliminated at least one suspect. Just as she wonders how to walk back with a blistered foot, a hand suddenly offers her a band-aid. Looking up in surprise, she sees a dark-haired guy who casually claims he was just passing by. She skillfully applies the bandage to her ankle, feeling a rare moment of unexpected warmth. But before she can even properly thank him, the guy has already turned around to leave. Seeing him walk away, she ignores the pain and hurries to grab his sleeve. Meeting his calm gaze, our normally cold agent nervously fidgets, awkwardly offering to buy him a coffee as thanks. Even in the middle of a dangerous undercover mission, our girl instantly drops her guard when the signature dessert arrives. She happily stuffs her cheeks, completely captivated by the sweet treat. Sitting across from her, our guy tries to use the relaxed mood to fish for info. But he gets totally ignored as she focuses on her food, prompting him to change his tactics. He drops the act, crossing his arms with a piercing glare. "Who sent you? Your background is completely blank, and your combat skills are suspiciously good. Did you really think you were well hidden?" Startled by the sudden interrogation, her agent instincts kick in, instantly calming her down. Realizing he might just be bluffing, she plays the innocent victim, claiming her martial arts are merely for self-defense. Not only does she provide a flawless excuse about her transfer student anxiety, but she also turns the tables. She leans in, sharply questioning why he is hiding his own true identity. Hit right where it hurts, he immediately raises his guard. Taking a tactical sip of his coffee to mask his unease, he coldly shuts the conversation down. They reach a standoff, but her mind is already racing. Compared to this guy's obvious hostility, that overly friendly Han Jongwoon might just be the deadlier threat lurking in the shadows. Recalling the awkward encounter with Jongwoon, our girl just wants the ground to swallow her whole. Realizing she won't get any useful intel from Jae-young today, she decides to cut the uncomfortable meal short. Her ill-fitting heels immediately betray her, causing a slip. Jae-young quickly grabs her, but accidentally chokes her by the collar instead. Sighing helplessly, he tells her to just hold onto his arm. The two stroll awkwardly through the night side by side. Though the agonizing heels make her want to walk barefoot, Jae-young endures the pain to keep up her wealthy heiress disguise. Walking under the cherry blossoms, Jae-young senses something off and probes why he's without bodyguards. Jae-young remains perfectly calm, brushing it off by saying he doesn't need them. Just then, her handler arrives right on time. Seeing them linked together, he can't help but tease her about being on a date, only to receive a deathly glare in return. Jae-young gets in the car without looking back, while Jae-young watches quietly, leaving her with a meaningful farewell. The moment the doors close, her gossipy handler immediately starts bombarding her with questions. Ignoring his gossip, Jae-young tells him to slow down. Her elite agent instincts scream that they are being tailed. Even though Jae-young claimed he had no bodyguards, eyes are definitely watching them. Meanwhile, left alone on the street, Jae-young takes his time lighting a cigarette. As the lighter's flame flickers, the fake gentleness in his eyes completely vanishes. Right on cue, his hidden bodyguards emerge from the shadows, relaying the chairman's order to return home. Exhaling a cloud of smoke, Jae-young coldly interrogates his men about why yesterday's mess wasn't cleaned up properly. Under the gloomy, rainy sky, the brutal atmosphere of the survival game still lingers. Wonjun's lackey opens the door, just in time to see a mysterious dark-haired guy stepping over defeated students and declaring their elimination. Seeing the innocent students trembling in fear, the lackey grows increasingly uneasy. He approaches Wonjun, who is smoking in the corner, and hesitantly asks if he's the one behind these recent terrifying attacks. However, Wonjun simply scoffs, brushing off the hidden threats like they're nothing. Not only does he ignore the warning, but he also mocks his lackey for being a coward, leading to a heated argument in the hallway. Eager to prove he's still the ruthless boss around here, Wonjun wastes no time with words. He grabs an innocent boy with glasses nearby and throws a merciless punch, instantly freezing the atmosphere in the hallway. Heavy fists continue to rain down, leaving the victim bloodied and groaning on the floor. But the worst is yet to come. Another even more ruthless bully suddenly steps in, whose sheer brutality makes even the arrogant Wonjun sweat in fear. Seeing the situation about to spiral completely out of control, our boy Jongwoon finally steps in. He interrupts the bullying and mockingly asks Wonjun if he's already forgotten the brutal beating he got from Jae-young last time. Struck a nerve, the furious Wonjun tries to attack, but Jongwoon remains completely unfazed, firmly using his body to shield the victim. Shaking his head at the stubborn bullies, he turns and escorts the injured student to the infirmary. Just then, Jongwoon receives an unexpected delivery. It turns out to be Jae-young's school uniform, which she had apparently left behind during her previous escapades. Back in the classroom, our girl Jae-young is completely drained, slumped over her desk. Meanwhile, Ji-yeon is as energetic as ever, showing off outfits and gossiping with Jongwoon. Jongwoon hands the uniform back to Jae-young. Learning that the Chaebol heir, Lee Jae-young, was the one who sent it, Jae-young is completely stunned by the unexpected gesture. Hearing this, Ji-yeon's gossip senses tingle. She immediately begins imagining a wild, dramatic love triangle involving Jae-young, Jongwoon, and Jae-young. Ji-yeon excitedly pulls out her phone to show off photos from their recent outing. Despite her cold exterior, Jae-young is clearly being pulled into this quirky group dynamic. Getting caught up in the moment, Ji-yeon invites Jongwoon to her house next week along with Jae-young. It seems their social circles are becoming irreversibly intertwined. After school, Jae-young returns to her secret hideout. When her handler checks in, she admits that dealing with high school drama is far more exhausting than any combat mission. All joking aside, the handler pulls up some mysterious surveillance footage. A man in the video catches their attention, suggesting that a new threat is looming on the horizon. While our girl digs deeper, her partner uncovers a disturbing lead. Han Jong-woon's records are a complete blank, suggesting his entire identity might be a carefully crafted facade. Late at night, our girl tosses and turns, her mind racing with clues. Her instincts scream that the seemingly friendly Han Jong-woon is hiding something far more dangerous. Nightmares of the past return with a vengeance. Bloody memories and the desperate final calls from her boss flash through her mind, threatening to pull her back into the abyss. Struggling through the vision, our girl finally snaps awake with a pained scream. The crushing weight of her past losses blurs the line between her trauma and reality. Her sudden scream sends her partner flying into a trash can in pure terror. Once the dust settles, our girl quickly regains her composure to focus back on the mission. The duo meticulously filters through the entire student body, narrowing the search down to 4 key targets. Among them, the mysterious Lee Jae-young becomes their primary focus. Navigating the world of elite heirs is like walking on a knife's edge, but our girl is ready to strike. She won't stop until the school's darkest secrets are brought to light. Back at the intelligence base, Handler's team is holding an urgent briefing. Looking at the injured Han Jong-woon, they're busy evaluating the threat level of this mysterious guy. The team debates if he discovered Dae-kyung's disguise and approached on purpose. Though the female agent can't help but blush, what if he just has a genuine crush on our girl? Meanwhile, a gang of local thugs is counting cash and tracking leads. Looking at a photo, the gangster who got his teeth knocked out instantly recognizes his worst nightmare. Remembering his broken jaw, the thug literally screams in panic. Clearly, these guys have locked onto Dae-kyung's location, and fresh trouble is brewing in the shadows. Back at school, our girl had a good night's sleep, but she's stunned upon entering the classroom. The mysterious Jong-woon has boldly changed his seat to sit right next to her. While Dae-kyung questions his motives, Jong-woon just stares back calmly. But this bold move completely thrills her pink-haired friend, who instantly kicks into high-gear gossip mode about their romance. Outside the classroom, the walls have ears. Ji-yeon warns everyone to watch their step, while our girl keeps a sharp eye on Han Jong-woon, who seems to be blending in a bit too perfectly. Ji-yeon steps away to call her family, giving our girl a moment to check her phone. It's a message from her handler, Cho Tae-wong, a reminder that her mission is calling, and she's got some explaining to do. Just as she's leaving, some spoiled brats block her path. Staring at her cracked phone screen, our girl feels her patience thinning. She wants to keep a low profile, but these guys are pushing it. The ringleader sneers, mocking her social status before tossing cash onto the ground as compensation for the phone. It's a cheap move, but our girl stays calm, letting him play his little game for now. For a split second, her assassin instincts flare up, imagining a brutal takedown. But this is school, not a battlefield. She takes a breath and forces the killer inside to back down. Once the drama settles, Han Jong-woon gives her bag a reassuring pat. They walk out together, looking like regular students, but every step is a silent dance of mutual suspicion and hidden agendas. Inside the car, Ji-yeon is fuming, venting her rage about Oh Won-jun's arrogance. Our girl sits quietly, knowing all too well that this kind of wealthy pride is exactly what she can exploit later. Han warns her that Oh Won-jun is dangerous news. But for our girl, that's just an invitation. She looks away, already planning her next move to dig up the dirt on these elite heirs. Inside the car, Ji-yeon is venting to our girl Dae-kyung, but Dae-kyung's mind is elsewhere. She can't help but think about Han Jong-woon, wondering what his deal really is. Just as the trio returns to the apartment to relax, a sudden phone call shatters the peace. It's Ji-yeon's suspicious father, and everyone instantly freezes in a state of panic. With her dad about to burst in, Ji-yeon panics and shoves our girl and Jong-woon into a tiny closet. This sudden close contact makes even the stoic Dae-kyung blush like crazy. The air in the cramped closet feels frozen. To avoid being caught, our girl and Jong-woon are forced to huddle together. It's a heart-pounding mix of danger and awkward tension. Our girl is in the closet wondering why on earth she has to hide too. Meanwhile, Ji-yeon is outside desperately faking a YouTube session to mask the suspicious noises in the house. As her dad approaches the closet, Ji-yeon is sweating bullets. She puts on a wild, dramatic performance, acting possessed just to scare him away from opening the door. Crisis averted. After successfully scaring her dad away, Ji-yeon turns around and kicks a dazed Jong-woon out of the way. Watching the chaos, our girl just wants to disappear. After that emotional roller coaster, Dae-kyung insists on going home, only to be instantly bribed by the smell of fried chicken. Apparently, peace can be bought with a bucket of BBC chicken. The hangout continues as our girl tries to leave, but her pink-haired friend won't let her. Surrounded by fried chicken and Jongwon's intense gaze, the cozy atmosphere feels a bit alien to her. Jongwon insists on walking her home, fearing Oh Wonjun might retaliate. As they chat about the brutal tactics of criminal gangs, our girl just keeps eating, listening to the very world she belongs to. Watching her friends joke around, our girl experiences a brief moment of dissociation, her mind flashing to her cold, masked persona. To her, this normal friendship feels like a fragile, surreal dream. Her friend starts digging into her love life, and is shocked to learn our girl has never dated. Even Jongwon is stunned. Who would expect a top-tier fighter to be a total rookie in romance? As the night ends, our girl declines any company. Walking the streets alone, she reflects on how her friends have no idea that the girl they know is actually a lethal agent born for combat. The cozy vibes vanish as trouble finds her in a dark alley. Masked men suddenly appear, holding a blade to her throat. But with a gaze colder than ice, it's clear these goons have no idea who they're messing with. Faced with immediate danger, our girl remains terrifyingly calm. Under the cover of shadows, her walk home has turned into a lethal hunting ground, and the real game is just beginning. Cornered in a dark alley, our girl finds herself at knife point. Even with a blade pressed against her throat, she remains eerily calm, her eyes showing no hint of fear. Surrounded by thugs, our girl keeps her head down, letting the tension build. The attackers think she's paralyzed with fear, unaware that the tables are about to turn. A thug in a green cap loses his patience, grabbing her shoulder and demanding to know if Oh Wonjun sent her. He clearly thinks she's just an easy target to bully. Violence erupts in an instant. A long blade swings through the air, and though the chaos is overwhelming, our girl's elite reflexes keep her just out of harm's way. Despite being outnumbered and facing heavy strikes from bats, our girl remains focused. Even as she's forced back, she's already calculating her next move. No more playing nice. Our girl seizes the moment, disarming her attacker and landing a bone-shattering blow that shows these thugs what a real elite agent can do. In a flash, the alley is littered with fallen thugs. Standing amidst the carnage, our girl radiates a terrifying aura that leaves the remaining enemies completely stunned. Ignoring the cuts on her arm, she tightens her grip on the blade. The gang finally realizes that this schoolgirl is actually a relentless killing machine. A final attacker lunges in desperation, hoping to change his fate. But our girl is faster, ending the fight with one decisive strike under the pale moonlight. Our girl isn't holding back against these foolish ambushers. She pins one thug to the wall, swiftly kicks another away, and finishes them off without a second of hesitation. Seeing his comrades fall, the remaining thug desperately begs for mercy. But that trick doesn't work on Daekyung, who coldly ignores his cries and strikes him down with absolute ruthlessness. Her handler urgently yells through the earpiece to avoid causing a massive scene. But Daekyung, completely locked into battle mode, ignores the warning and dives in for another strike. Daekyung gets a bloody scrape on her face during the fierce fight. The thug tries to mock her for being a scared kid, but she shuts him up instantly with a brutal slash to the head. Watching a surviving thug flee and the rest groaning on the ground, Daekyung finally lets her guard down a little, taking a deep breath in the narrow, bloody alley. She expertly loots the defeated enemies. Inspecting the fake IDs and burner phones, Daekyung quickly connects the dots. These aren't Chairman Lee's men, but Oh Wonjun's hired goons. However, in that brief moment of distraction, a hidden enemy launches a surprise attack. Caught off guard by a gun and a toxic blade, Daekyung is instantly subdued and trapped from behind. Meanwhile, Han Jong-woon finishes his conversation. Upon hearing that Daekyung left 10 minutes ago, he stares at his phone, a bad feeling slowly creeping into his mind. In the shadows of the alley, the mysterious blonde guy receives word of a sudden change in plans. The meeting point is now an abandoned factory on the mountain, and the tension is rising. The interrogation gets intense. Facing the bloody thugs, our mysterious ally remains eerily calm. He not only identifies their gang affiliations, but completely dominates the room with his presence. Losing patience with the silent thugs, he cuts straight to the chase. He demands the location of the mountain factory, knowing that our girl, Daekyung, is currently in grave danger. Meanwhile, our girl slowly wakes up in a dimly lit shed. Despite the blood on her face and the lingering exhaustion, her survival instincts sharpen the moment she realizes she's in enemy territory. Though bound and outnumbered by 5 men, our girl doesn't show a hint of fear. While enduring their taunts, she calmly analyzes the room, noting every detail about her captors and her surroundings. A cocky thug presses a knife against her throat to intimidate her, but our girl doesn't flinch. Instead, she stares him down with pure disgust, making him feel unexpectedly uneasy despite his weapon. Instead of begging for mercy, she goes on the offensive. She bluntly mocks them, calling these thugs nothing more than low-level street criminals who will only ever be someone else's tools. Our girl drops a bombshell, linking them to Lee Jae-young. She mocks them for being loyal dogs to a master who secretly despises their kind, effectively turning the psychological tables on her captors. Is Dae-kyung playing a dangerous game or just unlucky? Despite being tied up and bleeding, her calm gaze is enough to drive her captors absolutely insane with frustration. Her captors are hitting a wall trying to dig up her past. The fact that her records are a complete blank in their system is starting to make these guys seriously uneasy. The lead thug thinks he's struck gold, believing Dae-kyung's identity is the key to controlling Han Jong-woon. He's laughing now, completely oblivious to the danger he's actually in. In a high-stakes game of psychological warfare, our girl dares the villain to make a move. Her utter lack of fear leaves the man in the suit completely stunned and hesitant. Pushed to his limit, the thug snaps and grabs her by the hair, threatening to end her right there. But the chilling intensity in her eyes suggests he's the one in trouble. Did they forget who they're dealing with? Even with her hands tied, her legs are lethal weapons. With one swift strike, the arrogant thug is sent crashing to the floor in pain. Meanwhile, Han Jong-woon is keeping a close watch. Seeing the GPS signal flashing red on his monitor, he realizes our girl might have finally walked into a serious trap. Outside the warehouse, the tension is becoming unbearable for the remaining thugs. One of them, clutching his bat, can't shake the terrifying feeling that his time is up. Looking down at the fallen Dae-kyung, these fools have no idea they've just poked a sleeping dragon. As the bat swings down, the real nightmare for them is only just beginning. Just as a man nervously checked on a woman with a knife, panicking and asking, "Is she dead?" the woman, who seemed bound and helpless, suddenly broke free. With explosive force, she locked her arms around his throat from behind. Meanwhile, in another part of the abandoned factory, the mysterious man in the green cap effortlessly subdued a brunette man with the exact same technique, leaving the other thugs present completely stunned. Seeing the man in the cap take control, the brunette man in charge completely panicked. He backed away, demanding to know how things got out of hand, but only received chaotic responses. The woman, now free and with blood on her hands, was seething with rage over having actually fallen into the trap and gotten injured. She realized the enemy had been deliberately provoking her, aiming to subdue her by exploiting her impulsiveness. As that realization hit her, the enemies lying in ambush swarmed in, shouting, "Catch her!" and "Just kill her!" A bloody melee erupted instantly within the dim, abandoned factory. These thugs, however, had clearly underestimated our girl's skills. Faced with the ambush, she grabbed a metal bat and turned into a cold-blooded fighting machine. She launched a crushing counterattack, taking down enemy after enemy. Just then, an unexpected attacker struck. A blonde man lunged forward, stabbing her leg with a knife. This cowardly sneak attack caused her knee to buckle, while a white-haired man practically collapsed in pain at the same moment. The factory fell into a tense silence, broken only by the ragged breaths of the wounded. A thug covering the perimeter, seeing the situation completely reversed, screamed into his phone in frustration and fury, demanding to know why no one could stop her. Our boy confronts the terrified, brown-haired thug who is screaming a desperate question asking if he can stop the person hellbent on killing him. In the face of the threat, our boy coldly asks what he suggests. Instead, the brown-haired man drops to his knees, phone in hand, offering to settle things with money for disposing of a body and compensating his injured men, and tauntingly asks if our boy can even afford it. The word, kill, causes a flicker of hesitation on our boy's face. Meanwhile, a separate scene shows a dark-haired woman already standing over a collapsed figure, a blade in hand. The crisis is escalating elsewhere. The dark-haired woman swings her blade with a furious shout, while the deal-making brown-haired thug watches in horror from the sidelines. From the shadows, a masked figure with a sinister laugh urges the blade-wielding man to go ahead and kill the woman, promising to pay any price and demanding he hurry. In response, the dark-haired woman merely holds up a finger with eerie calmness, counting out numbers. With a chillingly composed gaze, the threat seems to bounce right off her. In an instant, the blade-wielding man lunges forward with a powerful, sharp stab, a triumphant sneer on his face as he attacks. But the tide turns in a flash. The once arrogant brown-haired thug is now writhing on the ground in agony, having clearly suffered a devastating, unexpected blow. Seizing the momentum, the dark-haired woman turns the tables completely. With a roar, she drives her weapon down with overwhelming force, stabbing straight through the masked man from behind. From a corner, a man with a topknot and a sinister gaze speaks up. He smirks as he points out a critical miscalculation. There weren't 5 of them, there were 6. No sooner are the words spoken than his accomplice springs into action, one hand fiercely grabbing our boy's wrist in a violent attempt to wrench the weapon from his grip. The impact is brutal, the force of it sending someone flying and crashing heavily to the ground. Even the top-knot man himself is slammed hard to the ground, groaning in pain as he clutches his head from the tremendous force. Amid the chaos, another dark-haired man with a blade dives down, aiming a deadly strike at the fallen woman while snarling at her to let go. But the seemingly subdued woman suddenly strikes back. From seemingly nowhere, she yanks a heavy metal chain, whipping it to wrap tightly around the diving attacker's neck. The chain bites deep into flesh, pulling the top-knot man forward until he's gasping for air. Pinning her down, he grips the chain with one hand while what looks like a knife handle presses against her throat, a deadly standoff. In a dimly lit room or ruin, a ruthless execution is underway. A dark-haired man is violently slashing a fallen dark-haired woman with a blade, the weapon cutting through her body with a sharp whistle as she screams in agony. The attack doesn't stop. The man strikes again from behind with devastating force. The blow sends the woman flying backward, shattering nearby benches and furniture in a chaotic explosion of debris. As a second dark-haired man coldly cuts her neck with a blade, the woman lies on the ground, her clothes torn, her body covered in blood. She can only manage painful, ragged breaths as her lifeblood drains away. The scene shifts to a brown-haired man. He's collapsed on the floor of an abandoned factory, his face contorted in absolute terror. Sweat pours down his face, his body shakes uncontrollably, and even his ragged laughter sounds hysterical. And the source of his terror is our bloodied protagonist, Lee Dakyung. She stands in the factory, covered in wounds and grime, her sharp gaze fixed ahead as she holds a knife, looking every bit like a battle-hardened deity of vengeance. A dark-haired man in a suit tries to suggest talking things out, but he's immediately cut off. Behind him, another man dangles helplessly, his feet bound and hoisted in the air, swaying weakly. Completely broken, the brown-haired man kneels on the ground, tears and snot streaming down his face as he begs incoherently. He escalates his desperate offers from $1 million to billions, promising all his assets, pleading just to be spared. Dakyung, still covered in blood, speaks coldly. Then don't stall. Answer now. She fixes him with a piercing gaze. The true heir of the Saiyang Group conglomerate, the chairman's son. Who is he? The man being questioned seems stunned by the query. His eyes widen, and he stammers incoherently. The shot focuses back on Dakyung's blood-smeared profile, her eyes radiating a chilling intensity as she presses for the truth. But right at this critical moment, the situation erupts. The factory's metal doors burst open. A fully armed SWAT team pours in, shouting, "Drop your weapons, and put your hands behind your head." Police. The barrels of multiple guns instantly train on everyone inside the building. The scene descends into utter chaos. Police shout commands, and amidst the noise, the names Han Jong-woon and Lee Dakyung are called out. Badly wounded and losing too much blood, Dakyung can barely stand. Her vision blurs, and the surrounding voices distort into an unintelligible roar. She's about to collapse. Amidst the overlapping shouts of "Get the patient to the hospital now," from medics, and the tense standoff from SWAT, a lone, suspicious figure in a gray hoodie watches it all unfold silently from a higher vantage point, his presence hidden by the chaos. Inside a dark, abandoned warehouse, Han Jong-woon faces off against 3 heavily armed gunmen. However, what truly rattles him is the news they deliver. They claim Lee Dakyung is dead. They appear to be holding an unconscious woman, likely Dakyung, as leverage, forcing Jong-woon into a stalemate. He presses a hand to his chest in anguish, seemingly facing an impossible choice. Meanwhile, arrests are underway outside. Our white-haired handler looks utterly shaken by the sudden turn of events, while another group of armed personnel forcibly removes Oh Jun from the scene. Furiously resisting arrest, Oh Jun demands to know who gave the orders. It seems a powerful figure in the shadows is taking action, cleaning up and controlling the entire scene. The view pulls back to reveal the entire desolate industrial complex. The vehicles and figures look tiny, hinting at the vast, intricate web of conspiracy behind this incident. Our handler insists on following them. While in his car, Han Jongwoon is staring intently at a shattered phone recovered from the scene. Jongwoon's face appears innocent and good-natured, but a close-up shot of his hand suggests he's preparing for something. He knows time is running short. The scene shifts back to the school infirmary. Pink-haired Hwang Ji-yeon is gossiping with the bedridden Lee Da-kyung, hinting at Han Jongwoon's possibly complicated background. Noticing Da-kyung's thoughtful silence, Ji-yeon leans in to share a private word, asking her agitated white-haired companion to step outside for a moment. Once the handler leaves, Ji-yeon quickly pulls out a phone. She tells Da-kyung she saw Oh Won-jun's phone at the scene and shows it to her. On the screen is a text message from Lee Jae-young to Oh Won-jun, reading, "Follow the makeup artist's instructions." This shocking discovery leaves Da-kyung completely breathless. Meanwhile, the white-haired handler resolves to uncover the truth. Elsewhere, a mysterious dark-haired man watches developments on his phone from a park bench. The power play at this school is far deadlier than anyone imagined. On a city rooftop, Lee Jae-young and the mysterious light gold-haired boy, Han Jongwoon, sit together. Han Jongwoon casually enjoys a lollipop, while Lee Jae-young is engrossed in his phone, seemingly waiting for something. Hearing Han Jongwoon mention, "Oh Won-jun," Lee Jae-young's expression subtly shifts to confusion. Han Jongwoon continues to probe, calmly asking if he truly knows nothing. The scene then flashes back quickly, as if to fragmented memories in Lee Jae-young's mind, showing our protagonist, Da-kyung, engaged in ruthless combat, interspersed with his own pensive moments. Meanwhile, our severely injured protagonist, Da-kyung, finally regains consciousness in the hospital bed. As she slowly opens her eyes, Hwang Ji-yeon and Han Jongwoon, who were by her side, show expressions of worry and surprise. Seeing Da-kyung awaken, Hwang Ji-yeon excitedly gestures, her voice filled with relief. But Da-kyung weakly raises a hand, her body clearly not yet recovered from the severe trauma. Despite not having fully recovered, our protagonist Da-kyung is already eager to resume training. She runs breathlessly through the corridor, even being caught by a passing classmate, awkwardly explaining she couldn't exercise in the hospital. Da-kyung realizes Han Jongwoon must have witnessed her awkward moment and falls into thought. The mysterious boy's image flashes through her mind as she wonders how to explain the situation to him. The strenuous exercise gives Da-kyung a splitting headache. In her daze, she dreams of dangerous scenes involving knives and swords, seemingly connected to Lee Jae-young. Startled awake from the nightmare, she decides to put aside her doubts for now and rest. While Da-kyung is recovering, the Chaebol scion, Lee Jae-young, unexpectedly appears in her hospital room. He calmly sits by her bed, inquiring about her injuries and mentioning Han Jongwoon as his source of information. Though Da-kyung insists she's fine, when faced with Lee Jae-young's apology, she directly questions whether he truly had no involvement in the attack. Their conversation is fraught with hidden agendas and danger. Lee Jae-young insists he's uninvolved, yet apologizes for failing to manage his subordinates, which only solidifies Da-kyung's suspicion of his hidden secrets. Thus, our protagonist makes an unexpected request. Da-kyung directly states her intention to recuperate at Lee Jae-young's house. This bold move instantly makes the usually composed man reveal a look of utter shock, as if completely taken by surprise. Our guy brought our girl back to his huge, empty house. When she questioned why he lived alone in such a large place, he gave a vague response, avoiding the topic of his own strange behavior. An enthusiastic maid with brown hair rushed out to greet them. She was visibly shocked and thrilled that the young master had brought a girl home, loudly welcoming them, and immediately going to prepare more food. Our girl, battered, injured, and running a fever, finally collapsed onto the guest room bed. She regretted not listening to the doctor's advice, feeling pain in every part of her body, including a pounding headache. However, driven by her mission, she had no time to rest. She forced herself to kneel up, telling herself this was not the time to show weakness. She had to continue investigating the secrets of this place. Just then, she heard movement outside the door. Peeking out, she saw the guy, shirtless after changing, walk past her room, muttering to himself about finding the bathroom. Panicking, our girl tried to close the door, but stumbled, alerting him. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed her arm before she could fall. Frowning at her unsteady stance, he asked if there was still something wrong with her legs, questioning why she always seemed to be falling. This only made our weakened girl feel more frustrated. Then, as if noticing something, he reached out to touch her forehead and cheek. The cool touch and his uncomfortably close proximity made our girl's face flush bright red. "Your body is burning up," He confirmed her fever, insisting she take medicine before eating. But our girl just wanted to fill her stomach first, creating a standoff between the two. Just as she tried to argue, her gaze accidentally swept over his arm. The sight of densely clustered needle marks made her freeze in place, completely forgetting what she was about to say. She grabbed his arm and pulled it closer for inspection, demanding to know what these marks were. The sudden move made him tense up instantly before he reacted sharply, pushing her out of the room. Left outside the door, our girl's heart was pounding. Those were clearly traces of long-term injection. Combined with the rumors about his family company's involvement in drugs, could he actually be using narcotics? Just as her thoughts were in turmoil, the maid's call for dinner echoed from downstairs. Faced with the promise of food, our girl instantly pushed her doubts aside, shouting, "Coming!" as she rushed down. At the dining table, the maid's cooking was so delicious our girl almost swallowed her tongue. But this happiness was short-lived, as the overly enthusiastic maid started gossiping about their relationship, repeatedly complimenting how good they looked together. Our boy and Daekyung are sharing a quiet meal until the topic of a wedding suddenly pops up. It's enough to make even a top-tier secret agent blush and lose her cool for a moment. The conversation shifts to the upcoming school sports meet. When Daekyung hears there's a shooting event, her instincts flare up. This school is definitely hiding something beyond the ordinary. Suddenly, our boy reveals a dark, metallic object. Its familiar weight and silhouette instantly remind Daekyung of the battlefield, making her wonder if he's more dangerous than he looks. But upon closer inspection, it's just a toy gun? The goofy design catches even our boy off guard, instantly shattering the tension and leaving Daekyung questioning her own paranoia. The maid casually mentions that the gun is a special family design product. While Daekyung stays composed, she's already mentally investigating what secrets this family business is actually shielding. As the maid steps out, the room grows quiet. The air between them turns heavy and expectant as Daekyung leans down, feeling our boy's intense, unyielding gaze locked onto her. Before she can move, our boy reaches out and touches her hair. This sudden moment of intimacy catches Daekyung off guard, blurring the lines between their secret roles and their growing connection. At school, Lee Jae-young asks Daekyung with a curious smirk if her ears can wiggle, causing her to blush and mumble something about it not even being a real secret. Jae-young then questions her about her health, but Daekyung is already collapsed on the floor, weak and injured, clearly suffering from an illness. Noticing her unfocused gaze and alarming condition, Jae-young's expression turns serious as he examines her more closely. Just then, a maid arrives with a tray of apples, concerned about the situation. She notes that Daekyung seems to have had no luck in drawing a buy and will have to compete. These words appear to trigger a traumatic memory for Daekyung, flashing back to images of being stabbed and the pain of injections, making her cover her mouth in shock. Suddenly, she kicks out at Jae-young's chair, causing general shock, before collapsing herself onto the floor from exhaustion and pain. When the panicked Jae-young tries to rush her to the hospital, the delirious Daekyung struggles weakly, repeatedly refusing, as if gripped by a deep fear of hospitals. Waking from her stupor, Daekyung finds herself not in her dorm at 3 a.m., while a calm voice asks if she's awake. When she fully wakes up and sees Jae-young by her bed, she jolts up in terror, having no memory of how she got there. Daekyung immediately demands to know what happened and where her clothes and phone are. As Jae-young tries to calm the agitated girl, she grabs his wrist instead, turning the atmosphere tense. Waking up in an unfamiliar place, our girl immediately pins Jae-young down, her sharp gaze and lethal grip sending him into a cold sweat as he struggles to explain himself. Surprisingly, Jae-young doesn't fight back, instead urging her to rest. He admits he's baffled by her overwhelming strength while explaining that this is his private sanctuary for recovery. As the tension thaws, our girl questions him about his illness. Jae-young reveals it's a closely guarded secret known only to a Wonjun, hinting at the heavy burdens of his status. The two engage in a rare, quiet conversation. Jae-young opens up about his past and shows genuine concern for her injuries, a gesture that feels foreign to a battle-hardened agent like her. Despite Jae-young's attempts to bridge the gap, our girl remains skeptical. In a school ruled by power struggles, she knows that kindness often masks a much more calculated agenda. Our girl cuts to the chase, confronting him about his secret investigation into her background. Jae-young is forced to admit his curiosity, struck by her raw and unapologetic honesty. The real motive surfaces as Jae-young reveals he's been monitoring Han Jong-woon. This revelation shifts everything, showing that several powerful factions are already tracking the mysterious student. Sensing the value of his intel, our girl proposes a strategic alliance. If their interests align, they might as well team up to unmask Jongwoon, setting the stage for an even deadlier game. To exchange information, Daekyung proposed a partnership to the boy in front of her, and asked in return why he needed intel on Han Jongwoon. After a moment of silence, he finally admitted that while he had no intention of inheriting power, he now needed the influence that came with his position to prove himself worthy. He went on to say that Han Jongwoon was likely a decoy, but his vague explanations didn't convince Daekyung at all, so she pressed for more concrete details. When pressed on her core reason for needing intel on Jongwoon, Daekyung faltered, stumbling over her words, and awkwardly claiming it was simply out of curiosity. The tables were turned, and Daekyung was now the one at a loss. She hunched over, her back to him, grappling internally for any plausible explanation to gloss over the real reason. He urged her to say anything. Under pressure, she could only look up and blurt out, because he seems like a nice guy, Talk about a weak excuse. Naturally, that answer got her nowhere. He calmly pointed out that if she truly liked Jongwoon, her attitude wouldn't be what it is now, and he reminded her she should probably be heading back home or to school. Daekyung insisted on staying to continue her investigation. His demeanor changed abruptly, and he agreed with a smile that was almost too agreeable, suggesting they could start their investigation right here in this very room. The very next moment, however, he issued orders. She was to wake him at 7 a.m., and shouldn't even think about sneaking out because cameras were everywhere. With that, he simply turned over and went to sleep. With no other choice, Daekyung left the room. Walking outside, she was still mulling over who she could have lunch with today. Just then, as she entered the school grounds, she unexpectedly ran into Han Jongwoon, who just so happened to be looking for Lee Daekyung. Ji-yeon immediately lit up upon seeing him, bouncing over with a cheerful greeting. Meanwhile, Jongwoon, standing a short distance away, seemed to be about to ask if she knew where Daekyung had gone. By the car, a woman in dark clothes leans into the trunk, while a black-haired man watches her nervously. Their hushed conversation seems to be about someone who suddenly disappeared. Just then, Wang Ji-yeon spots Daekyung approaching in the distance. She excitedly shouts, rushing forward like she's seen a long-lost friend, completely oblivious to the calm Han Jongwoon and Lee Jae-young beside her. Seeing Daekyung and Lee Jae-young together, Wang Ji-yeon is utterly flabbergasted. She stammers, asking if they just met by chance, while Daekyung wears a complicated, somewhat embarrassed expression. Faced with Wang Ji-yeon's questions, Lee Jae-young drops a bomb. He calmly informs her that they've been together since yesterday. This news completely freaks out Wang Ji-yeon, leaving her utterly dumbfounded. The scene then shifts to school, where Wang Ji-yeon, buzzing with urgency, keeps rushing Daekyung to finish something, reminding her that the end of term is near and time is running out. Daekyung sits in class, chin in hand, absent-mindedly listening to her phone notifications. Meanwhile, Wang Ji-yeon excitedly holds her phone, urging Daekyung to check a message quickly. It turns out Wang Ji-yeon is probing about her relationship with Lee Jae-young. Daekyung, slightly annoyed, texts back, "Why do you need to know that?" Meanwhile, in the hallway, Lee Jae-young observes Han Jongwoon, who's got a cigarette in his mouth, and questions why he's so fixated on Daekyung, noting it's unlike his usual self. Han Jongwoon counters, asking if there needs to be a reason to like someone, or if Lee Jae-young suspects he has ulterior motives. This clearly irritates Lee Jae-young, with Han Jongwoon even remarking that he's too easily provoked. Han Jongwoon then smiles and reveals to Lee Jae-young that he and Daekyung share a secret, one pertaining to her body. He then adds, more importantly, Daekyung already has someone she likes. Lee Jae-young falls silent for a moment, then asks, "Who?" Han Jongwoon simply tells him to go ask Daekyung himself. Lee Jae-young is left in thought, while elsewhere, Wang Ji-yeon and a friend furiously yell at Han Jongwoon's retreating back, demanding to know why he won't tell the truth, questioning if his presence with Daekyung was truly just a coincidence. A bespectacled man holding a briefcase runs frantically down the hall. Meanwhile, downstairs, our boy and Ji-yeon, who'd just been called over by Jongwoon, also hear distant shouts. Jongwoon tries to get a moment with our heroine Daekyung, but the urgent shouts from the man upstairs drown him out, leaving everyone present bewildered. Without waiting for a response, our boy seems to sense something wrong. She accelerates, turns, and crashes right through a window, landing hard on the ground outside. Left behind, Jongwoon, Ji-yeon, and the bespectacled man are stunned, staring at the shattered window in disbelief. The scene shifts to the nurse's office. A man in a white shirt and a woman with her hair in a bun appear to be discussing painkillers. The window crashing to Kyung has burst in. She has a bandage on her cheek and blood below her eye, looking worse for wear as she weakly asks for a bandage. The man in the white shirt sees Taekyung's injuries aren't minor and insists she go to the hospital. However, Taekyung reacts with fierce, absolute refusal. In the end, the male school doctor in the white shirt has Taekyung sit down and personally examines her swollen ankle. While treating her, the doctor asks with a tinge of helplessness why she always ends up injured. It seems they are already old acquaintances. Taekyung lightly jokes that it's her destiny, mentioning that thanks to Hwang Ji-eun's arrangements, she'll be participating in the pistol shooting event at the sports festival. During their talk, Taekyung's expression grows distant, and she murmurs something about having to resolve it with her own hands. Noticing her shift in mood, the doctor gently cuts off her reverie. The doctor's expression also grows subtle and serious. He opens his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, only lets out a faint sigh. Meanwhile, in a dim room, the hot-tempered Chaebol heir Oh Won-jun is fearfully interrogated by a terrifying man with a black eye patch. Faced with this sudden and dangerous figure, Won-jun is utterly terrified, calling for his guards while shrinking back in fear. In the darkness, a hand tightens its grip on a cold object, making a final check. Elsewhere, someone swiftly and expertly picks the lock to a door at Chaebol High. The lock clicks open. Taekyung stands at the doorway, finding that the person waiting inside isn't a stranger at all. It's the pale-haired Han Jong-woon. He looks a bit nervous as he invites her in. Taekyung steps inside, cautiously accepting a box Jong-woon hands over. He explains that Min-jae asked him to deliver it. When asked how he knows Min-jae, he simply states they're in the same class. Taekyung opens the box, and inside lies a black pistol engraved with LDK. She's taken aback. Jong-woon explains that Min-jae heard about tomorrow's sports festival shooting event and prepared it for her. Jong-woon seems uneasy with the situation. He steps forward, pleading with Taekyung to put the gun down and clasping her hand that holds it. With a lowered head, he confesses it makes him genuinely sad to see her like this. Jong-woon then looks straight at Taekyung, calling out her avoidance. He questions why she only seems willing to get close to Jae-hyung and talk to him, when it's obvious to everyone that Jong-woon is always watching her. Faced with her denial, Jong-woon's gaze sharpens. He holds up a photo to Taekyung, calmly dismantling her defense. "No, it's not what you think. Because I know your real secret." Taekyung's eyes instantly turn icy and sharp, fixed on the photo in Jong-woon's hand, the very photo from Oh Won-jun's phone. Taekyung demands to know how he got this. Jong-woon admits unflinchingly that he picked it up along with Oh Won-jun's phone. He even knew the phone belonged to Won-jun. Jong-woon briefly touches a strand of her hair, then rests his chin in his hand, his gaze burning with intensity. He confesses he likes her precisely because she says so little, and now he insists on knowing everything about her. So Taekyung looks him dead in the eye with a shocking question. "You've seen the scene where I kill people, yet you still like me? Do you have a personality disorder?" Jong-woon's answer is equally chilling. "They deserve to die." Taekyung counters further, pointing out those people died because they were enemies of Oh Won-jun. Jong-woon immediately agrees, stressing that everything Won-jun did was aimed at her. But alarm bells are ringing in Taekyung's mind. She stares at this boy who seems to know everything, and finally asks coldly, "Why do you always act like you know it all?" Our guy Han Jong-woon has some terrifying intuition. He stares our girl down, calmly revealing that he knows exactly what's on her mind, even her hesitation over whether or not to kill him. Then he drops a bombshell, asking if he's the person she likes. While our girl stays composed, she's internally reeling. This guy's eyes feel like they're stripping away all her secrets. Deciding to play along, our girl offers to trade secrets. But when she reveals her hidden scar, he's visibly shaken. It's a gunshot wound, something no ordinary high schooler should ever have. As they talk about his family, our girl accidentally lets slip that she knows about his father's death. Seeing how calm he remains, she realizes she might be losing this mental tug-of-war. Frustrated by her own slip-up, our girl feels like she's losing her edge around him. But then, Han smiles and admits he was just testing her feelings, a move that leaves her completely speechless. After a sleepless night, our girl arrives at the school sports festival. She's still plotting how to deal with the Han Jong-woon problem, but the massive crowds tell her that a new set of challenges is already waiting. Watching the chaotic swarm of students, our girl can't help but feel annoyed by the crowd. But as she tries to blend in, a nagging sense of unease tells her this festival won't be all fun and games. Our girl happens to run into a clumsy stranger in the hallway. He's busy apologizing for dropping his papers, but a specific one catches her eye. The words "Seon Construction" on the page immediately trigger her agent instincts, making her gaze turn sharp and suspicious. Unfazed by her stare, the man asks for directions to class 222 with a calm smile. While leading the way, our girl starts probing for information. He claims to be a board member of a construction firm, but she knows someone of his status wouldn't just show up here for no reason. As they walk together, the man explains he's just there to support his cousin. Our girl finds the excuse ridiculous. A top executive visiting a school sports meet? She stays calm on the surface, but internally, she's already marked this uninvited guest as a potential threat. Just as our girl tries to peek and see who the man is meeting, Ji-yeon suddenly bursts onto the scene. The pink-haired girl grabs her and starts dragging her away. Taekyung is desperate to stay, but with no choice but to keep her cover, she's pulled away from her investigation. Back in the classroom, things take a turn for the absurd as the students prepare for their sports meet costumes. Surrounded by rabbit and tiger hoodies, our cold assassin is stunned. Before she can react, she's forced into a crow outfit, looking completely done with life. The gray-haired man, the infiltrator who previously claimed to be from a construction company, explains to the group that he got the tiger costume option only because the other key figure, likely the suspected heir, was absent on selection day. His cool outfit immediately sparks extreme envy and jealousy in the pink-haired girl, Ji-yeon, who indignantly closes in, wanting a stylish makeover for herself too. With formidable initiative, she grabs a pen and tries to draw tiger stripes on the face of a startled classmate in a black hoodie. Chaos erupts in the moment, but our agent Taekyung, in her penguin hoodie, immediately spots the unusual disturbance behind the commotion. The gray-haired tiger-eared boy, who was just explaining moments ago, suddenly delivers a sharp and precise headbutt to pink-haired Ji-yeon, a clean, practiced move that betrays his non-student nature. The dazed Ji-yeon clutches her head, begging for him to stop. Taekyung wipes her face with a towel, watching the bizarre assault coldly. She's growing vigilant and irritated, recognizing the gray-haired man as the suspicious figure who tried to approach her at the sports festival. As the sports festival is about to begin, everyone is herded out to the field for the principal's speech. During the ordinary-seeming opening ceremony, however, Taekyung's gaze locks onto an unexpected attendee, Won-jun, the Chaebol heir who tried to harm her and was later left mentally broken after a gang kidnapping, is also here. Won-jun is sweating profusely, visibly terrified and soiling himself. When his classmates question his presence, he rambles incoherently, muttering things like, "It's really great to have money." His appearance instantly causes a stir. Remembering his past scandal and kidnapping, a classmate confronts him directly, demanding to know how he dares to casually return to school after all he's done. Alarm bells ring in Taekyung's mind. She coldly analyzes the situation. She can't just leave Won-jun alone. He's mentally unstable, and if he accidentally reveals her search for the chairman's secret heir, her entire cover will be blown. As predicted, the situation escalates beyond control. The mentally fragile Won-jun, publicly confronted, completely breaks down. He screams, "Murderer!" and mentions urine, causing even greater chaos. As this unfolds, Taekyung stands to the side next to Ji-yeon, who, incredibly, is boasting proudly and wondering aloud how she managed to avoid a police investigation. Faced with Ji-yeon's teasing questions, our boy could only deny with a sigh, insisting that nobody would come to see her. But right at that moment, an unexpected person appeared, her handler, wearing a ridiculous tiger-eared hoodie and holding up a sign with a mocking slogan, barged right into the middle of the event field. Seeing her handler's sudden and blatant appearance, our boy was instantly horrified, wondering what on earth he was up to. This was practically tattooing "suspicious" on his forehead. The handler, however, was completely unfazed, proudly declaring that he was here to offer his support, and even boasted that he was brought here by the Chaebol heir, Lee Jae-hyung. The handler went on to explain that his real mission was to use this opportunity to try and sneak into the database server and download crucial information. This stunt made our boy bury her face in her hands in exasperation, while Ji-yeon simply thought the man was a bit too full of himself. Regardless, the handler enthusiastically pulled everyone together for a commemorative photo, documenting this ridiculous disguise and the absurd start to the mission. After the photo, Ji-yeon handed the picture to our boy and sincerely told her that she was very happy to have become friends with Taekyung, hoping she wouldn't ignore her after graduation. Faced with this sudden, sincere friendship, our boy was taken aback for a moment, but in the end, she responded softly with, "I understand." After the brief interlude, the school sports festival continued with an intense tug-of-war match. Amidst the cheers of the crowd, our boys' class smoothly won the first round. In the end, thanks to our boys' astonishing strength and the whole team's effort, their class clinched the final victory, and the field erupted in cheers. As the pink-haired girl starts to prattle again about those stupid hierarchy rankings, our boy firmly places a hand on her head, instantly shutting her up in shock. Startled by this interruption, the girl pauses, beginning to reflect on why she was ever so obsessed with those social levels in the first place. Meanwhile, over on the sports field, the soccer match is in full swing, with players sprinting and tackling fiercely, drawing cheers and screams from the sidelines. In the stands, students are cheering for their respective grades, with the showdown between the second and fourth years being particularly intense, Lee Jae-young's name even being shouted. Some quietly gossip about Lee Jae-young's alleged relationship with someone else, but their words are soon drowned out by the fervor of the game. The pink-haired girl seems to finally understand why some people keep secrets, and after all the intense competition, Lee Jae-young's class emerges victorious. The intense sports battles are finally over. The pink-haired girl sighs in relief, while our boy remains quietly seated on the steps. Just then, the pink-haired girl whispers a warning Han Jong-woon is approaching. Our boy's gaze sharpens, his expression tensing up immediately. Walking over while taking a drink, Han Jong-woon casually asks why she took his water. The girl beside them explains that someone purposely brought it for her. Under the bright sun of the sports festival, our girl Dae-kyung is chatting with Jong-woon about past records when Ji-yeon bursts in, complaining that it's way too hot and they desperately need some ice cream. Jong-woon mentions that the freshmen are running an event giving away ice cream. Sure enough, there's a booth nearby buzzing with excitement as students announce their special giveaway. But there's a catch. If you break the record, you win a lifetime supply of Elite Aishu ice cream. The moment she hears "free for life," our girl's eyes sharpen with sudden intensity. However, the rules leave everyone stunned. It's the infamous Pepero game. While acting disgusted, Ji-yeon tries to push Dae-kyung toward Jong-woon, egging them on to take the challenge together. Jong-woon is surprisingly game, confidently inviting Dae-kyung to break the record with him. But facing his enthusiasm, our girl is internally cringing, finding the whole idea pretty repulsive. Ji-yeon keeps grumbling that it's not worth the effort just for some ice cream. But in the blink of an eye, driven by the allure of a lifetime supply, Dae-kyung has already slipped away to start her secret plan. While Jong-woon wonders where she disappeared to, Dae-kyung is actually scouting for a safer partner. To her, Jong-woon is a mystery box of red flags. She'd rather team up with someone far less suspicious. Locking onto her target, Dae-kyung simply asks if he wants ice cream. They quickly head to the booth, and as the referee explains the fouls, this embarrassing challenge for elite ice cream officially begins. The crowd is buzzing as everyone realizes our girl Dae-kyung is actually participating. As the announcer kicks things off, she takes a deep breath, looking ready to set a new record. The pregame tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. As Dae-kyung sits there, the sheer proximity of the challenge starts to get to her, bringing a rare cold sweat to her brow. Our boy Jong-woon steps up with the stick in his mouth, looking perfectly composed. As the crowd starts gossiping about their relationship, Dae-kyung finds this mission more burdensome than expected. As the gap closes, Jong-woon suddenly reaches out and secures the back of her neck, whispering for her to stay still. It's a bold move that completely catches Dae-kyung off guard. Their faces are practically touching now, sending the crowd into a total frenzy. Even for a world-class agent, this suffocatingly close encounter is enough to make her mind go blank. With the beat dropping, the game hits its climax. Looking into Jong-woon's focused eyes, Dae-kyung's heart rate completely spirals out of control. This is way more intense than any assassination mission. Ji-yeon and the rest of the crew arrive just in time to witness the spectacle. Seeing the usually ice-cold Dae-kyung in such a romantic scenario has everyone's jaws hitting the floor. Rumors about our girl Dae-kyung and Jae-young are spreading like wildfire across the school. The reactions are priceless, with some students acting completely shocked while others buzz with excitement, wondering if she really has a thing for the wealthy heir. It turns out the group was busy measuring a tiny gap for a game, only to find it was 0.9 centimeters, just short of a new record. Clutching her ice cream, Dae-kyung looks absolutely stunned and frustrated by the narrow miss. Right in the middle of the fun, the sky opens up with a sudden downpour. In the scramble for cover, someone suddenly grabs Dae-kyung in a back hug, leaving the onlookers speechless at this unexpected display of intimacy in the rain. As the rain pours down, Daekyung stands lost in thought. She notices that the usually stoic guy is acting very strange in the wet weather, leading her to wonder if he's struggling with some kind of deep-seated trauma triggered by the water. Determined to find answers, Daekyung follows the trail deep into the school buildings. Seeing the wet footprints on the floor, she's certain her target is hiding just ahead, and she senses an opportunity to uncover the family's secrets. After slipping inside, she finds Han Jong-woon covertly investigating Chairman Lee's whereabouts. However, the search proves fruitless for now. Wiping the rain from her face, Daekyung's expression hardens as she realizes the path to revenge is far more complicated than expected. Outside, the rain falls relentlessly, matching the cold tension in the room. Seeing our girl's unusual silence, Han Jong-woon leans in, asking if the weather is making her sentimental. Our girl knows that past trauma leaves deep scars. Fearing she might lose herself in this revenge mission, she breaks the heavy silence by playfully poking Han with a melting popsicle. The tension only escalates as the two face off. When Han tries to probe into her past, our girl snaps, shouting his name and demanding to know who he really is. What started as a fierce confrontation leaves our girl feeling frustrated. Han's calm demeanor makes her feel like her anger is hitting a brick wall, driving her crazy. Our girl previously discussed with her handler that Han might be an undercover agent from the NIS. A man with a reckless infiltration plan just like hers is someone to watch. Even though he speaks in riddles, our girl realizes she can no longer ignore him. She reaches out and grabs Han's collar, her eyes filled with intense suspicion. This sudden physical contact catches Han completely off guard. He clearly didn't expect her to be so bold, and the sudden closeness leaves him momentarily stunned. But there's no romance here. Our girl starts a full-body search. Suspecting he's wearing a wire, she checks from his chest down to his waist, leaving him sweating bullets. To check for surveillance devices, our girl is physically patting down a silver-haired boy's chest, her expression sharp and questioning. Just then, Lee Jae-hyung suddenly appears in the rain, interrupting their odd interaction. He stands under an umbrella at the warehouse door, watching them with an inscrutable expression. Jae-hyung's arrival freezes the air. He walks toward Daekyung while remarking, "You two are always up to strange things." Jae-hyung tells Daekyung about the 11:30 meeting. Meanwhile, the mysterious silver-haired boy presses closer again, tension rising as he seems intent on continuing their earlier exchange. Rain pours down as a delicate standoff forms between the two men and Daekyung. It's only broken when Jae-hyung finally steps closer with his umbrella. Jae-hyung opens his umbrella and escorts Daekyung out into the rain, but then drops a bombshell question. "You seem to like Han Jong-woon too. Why aren't you two dating?" Daekyung is utterly flustered by this sudden question, tears welling in her eyes. She unconsciously tightens her grip on the object in her hands, as if it's her only anchor. Time moves to a new chapter. The undercover school life continues as a new inter-class competition is about to begin. Meanwhile, Lee Jae-hyung has written a mysterious code 3K on someone's clothing. The sports festival is about to begin, but Hwang Ji-yeon is gloomy, saying, "I intend to die early." Daekyung responds with unnerving calm, questioning why anyone would give up when they've chosen to participate. No sooner has she spoken than something happens on the field. A brown-haired girl is now kneeling helplessly on the ground, hands bound, with two unmistakable pink guns strapped to her back. The scene opens with a tense image. A brown-haired girl, hands bound, has her head pressed down by someone's hand. Despite being restrained, her gaze remains sharp, as if she's about to speak. The tension eases. A black-haired boy in a black tracksuit jacket puts his hand on her shoulder, wearing an apologetic smile, as if excusing her behavior to someone and urging her to move along. Inside a hallway, the brown-haired girl has left. Now, it's just the black-haired boy and another black-haired girl in a red jacket. The boy asks, puzzled, why the girl was carrying two pistols. The boy wonders if being a shooter would give her an unfair advantage in the upcoming competition. The girl dismisses this, noting that participants also have to dodge balls being thrown. She clarifies that it's essentially a game of dodgeball with pistols. She then turns the question on him, asking if he's been disciplining the younger classes so severely that the girl got scared. The boy looks baffled, claiming ignorance. An announcement made by a drone cuts through. The competition is about to begin in the gymnasium. To ensure fairness, no spectators are allowed, and scoring will be handled automatically by cameras. The competition signal sounds. Hwang Ji-yeon, the pink-haired girl, suddenly realizes with surprise that both our boy and the mysterious Han Jong-woon have already disappeared from sight. The competition heats up. In the gym's complex corridors, our boy calmly watches an opponent get hit by a beam and eliminated, appearing completely unfazed. However, the black-haired girl suddenly emerges behind our boy, leveling her gun at him. With a hint of amusement, she comments that he nearly startled her into firing. The battle intensifies as announcements of student eliminations keep rolling in. The girl compliments the boy on his marksmanship and proposes a formal head-to-head scoring duel between them. The boy is somewhat surprised by her competitive spirit since she previously claimed disinterest. Perched above him, she cocks her head and smiles, saying she's simply principled about never accepting defeat. The screen displays the rapidly dwindling number of survivors. The girl sits on the floor with the boy standing behind her. It dawns on both of them that something isn't right. Why are participants being eliminated so quickly? In the midst of the brutal survival game in the gymnasium, our guy and his temporary partner quickly analyze the earlier near-miss sniper shot, taking cover behind a barrier to try and figure out where it came from. To get a better vantage point for reconnaissance, the partner decisively lifts our boy up, a surprisingly intimate move that catches him completely off guard, making him immediately demand to be put down. Free from the awkward position, the two immediately snap back to their professional operative demeanor. They stand back-to-back to cover each other's six, while our guy focuses on carefully inspecting the crucial black cylindrical object in his hand. Asking about the remaining ammo count, our boy is met with a somewhat cryptic response from his partner. The hint is that his own unconscious actions are having an impact, a meaning he can't quite grasp just yet. Meanwhile, outside the gym, at the surveillance monitors, Wang Ji-yun is enthusiastically discussing the incident during the competition with the boy next to her. A participant has just been eliminated. She even gossipily points out how unusually agitated Lee Jae-young is acting in public today. Seated nearby, Han Jong-woon looks grave, seemingly sensing something amiss, as he utters an ominous statement about rainy days. Back inside the gym, tensions remain high as our boy and his partner continue to deliberate over the earlier ambush. Over in the classroom, Ji-yun is completely bewildered by Jong-woon's bizarre talk about offending the heavens and exorcism rites, leaving the atmosphere painfully awkward. She lets out a forced laugh and jokingly asks if he knows any expensive shamans. But just then, the broadcast feed is abruptly cut. An announcement declares a temporary suspension of the competition due to a camera connection failure. This sudden disruption makes Jong-woon's expression turn even more severe. Back in the gym, the surveillance screen suddenly updates, clearly showing only 3 survivors remaining on site. This unexpectedly low number stuns both our boy and his partner, the situation clearly having deteriorated far faster than they anticipated. As they look up to discuss their next move, they are startled to see one of the surveillance quadcopter drones spiraling down out of control, trailing sparks. The drone crashes near their feet, the explosion illuminating the dim space. Staring at the wreckage, our boy realizes a critical flaw. The system has been silently eliminating players without any announcements. This means they have to fight not only visible enemies, but the brutal rules of the game themselves. In the empty indoor space, she calmly stared ahead, whispering, "I don't know yet, let's wait and see," as sweat trickled down her face. In the background, another figure stood silently in the distant corridor. But the atmosphere suddenly tensed up the next second, with the two locked in a tense stare down after a sharp question. "What are you staring at?" she demanded, her gaze sharp, and his response was brief and direct. The situation instantly spiraled out of control. Blood splattered as someone clutched their chest. In the midst of the chaos, her pupils contracted sharply, as if she was frozen in shock by what she saw. The perspective suddenly shifted to first person. She had picked up a gun from somewhere, and was now shakily aiming its muzzle at the man walking away down the corridor, with his back turned. Heavy breathing echoed around her. The hand holding the gun trembled uncontrollably, until the muzzle finally turned towards herself. Tears streamed down her face as she let out a pained whimper, the cold gun barrel pressing against her jaw. In her mind, a desperate refusal battled against another voice. Chapter 24 begins. Chaebol high undercover. Racked with pain and conflict, she explosively raised her arms and pulled the trigger, aiming the gun at an upward angle. After the gunshot came the afterimage of high-speed movement. Her figure blurred from extreme velocity. At the same time, another voice frantically shouted while running further down the corridor. "Where is she? Where did she go?" The agonized shouts continued, and a sinister black, hand-shaped shadow seemed to hover over her head. She gritted her teeth, sweat and tears mixing as she inwardly screamed, "Where am I even supposed to go?" At that moment, a hand shot out from an unseen angle and forcefully pressed down on her head, halting all of her movements. "Let go! I said let go!" She struggled and yelled, but couldn't break free at all. Standing over the limp, sweaty brunette, the gun-wielding black-haired agent demands to know who ordered her, certain she couldn't have planned this alone. The fallen woman is barely conscious, only capable of agonized moans, completely unable to form a coherent response. Frustrated by the lack of answers, the agent's gaze turns even icier as she threatens to kill the woman unless she reveals her weapon supplier. To turn up the psychological pressure, she reveals why Won-jun runs, claiming he flees every time he sees her because she killed 5 men right before his eyes. She presses the gun barrel firmly against the target's head, coldly stating that killing one more person is nothing to her, and demanding an immediate answer. In a shocking turn, the woman on the ground seems to break completely. Giving up all resistance, she whispers through tears, "Please, just kill me." A man in a suit seems to be pressing Dakyung for information about Shin, the executive director of Sayan Construction, a name that appears to be key. Dakyung lies collapsed on the ground, unconscious, with a mix of tears and blood on her face. Footsteps pound rapidly as someone bursts onto the scene, their urgent shouts adding to the chaos. But one figure swiftly escapes, leaving the pursuing police far behind as she mutters angrily about Sayan. After the ordeal, the school was shut down for 3 weeks. Strangely, despite the severity, there was almost no public fallout, leaving Jongwoon utterly perplexed. His main concern was Lee Jae-hyung's condition. Having calmed down, Dakyung reviews the flaws in her infiltration mission, concluding that aside from the incident with Won-jun, she hasn't left any other obvious traces. Suddenly, a crucial detail comes to her mind. Han Jong-woon once said he'd handle the aftermath himself. This implies he has enough influence to suppress the school incident, something far beyond a normal student's capabilities. If Jong-woon truly is Chairman Lee's son, then Sayan likely knew about Dakyung's infiltration all along. Her handler adds that if Jong-woon wanted her dead from the start, he's had countless perfect opportunities. This line of thought frustrates Dakyung. She even begins to suspect Won-jun's involvement. As for the other key player, Lee Jae-hyung, he too appears to be in the dark. Our girl collapses, exhausted after the fight, but her mind races, trying to piece together the inconsistencies in her opponent's words. She recalls him seeming unaware of the full picture. Suddenly, a realization strikes her like a bolt of lightning. If he didn't even know her boss's name, then who was he really working for? She forces herself to sit up, trying to organize her thoughts despite the pain. Beside her, her partner delivers a crucial analysis. They never consider the same organization's methods because the style was so different. Then, he reminds her of the night she was attacked on her very first day at school. Her partner elaborates, his suspicions solidified as he touches his nose thoughtfully. The attacker's real goal was to hack his computer and confirm the identities of agents infiltrating the school. Seeing her uniform, he said, gave the villain all the pieces he needed to connect everything. All suspicion now points straight to the Choyun Academy, the school where Jae-hyung Lee, the chairman's son, attends. The attacker would have figured out she was no ordinary student. As they look at each other, a chilling hypothesis takes shape. They immediately return to their secret base, pulling up surveillance and tracking data. She remembered the license plate of Shin Myung-hwan's vehicle, but standard tracking methods are proving ineffective. As they work, a tense beep suddenly sounds from the base's communications equipment. An unknown caller is ringing. Her partner, stationed at a high vantage point, picks up the signal simultaneously. Looking at the unknown number flashing on her screen, she takes a deep breath and puts on her headset. The line connects. After a brief silence, a processed voice comes through, bluntly stating a name. Lee Jae-hyung. The caller repeats the name, a calm yet oppressive tone accompanying the voice, as if tracing each syllable with his finger. Steadying herself, she counters coldly, asking who he is. The voice on the other end returns with a mocking, probing question of its own. That's what I wanted to ask. Lee Jae-hyung, just who are you? When the voice mentions, aren't you the pawn that's been tailing out all this time? Her pupils contract sharply. Suppressing her rage, her voice becomes a blade of ice. You bastard! How do you know my boss's name? The caller seems satisfied with her reaction, even chuckling lightly. He says he's happy to see familiar faces again, having thought the entire cell had been wiped out. His words drain all color from her and her partner's faces. It's clear the enemy not only knows of their existence, but is actively investigating them. The voice reveals they've already identified at least 3 operatives within the cell, a number that sends a chill down their spines. Then, from the overlapping dialogue, a deeper suspicion emerges. But one of those familiar faces, why and how? The final image reveals a chaotic scene. Several men in suits surround a blindfolded, bloodied figure, while on the ground nearby lies the motionless form of a woman. The caller's voice delivers what sounds like a final verdict. It seems someone won't be able to exact their revenge personally, after all. A secret interrogation is underway, questioning whether to use the chairman's relative. The bald man, captured and bleeding, is clearly suffering severe torture, seemingly the executive director in question. Meanwhile, our boy's expression turns exceptionally grim, as if she's heard something horrifying through her headset. Her handler, the white-haired contact, anxiously questions how she managed to infiltrate that school. As he spoke, he furiously typed on the keyboard, searching for the location of a critical place, which was their most pressing concern. But just as he focused, our boy exclaimed, for their communication had suddenly cut off. The white-haired handler explained they were almost traced, and if he hadn't cut the signal in time, their own hideout would have been compromised. He then grimly stated that this was the worst-case scenario. The enemy likely already knew everything. Suddenly, he mentioned Uncle Chul, which clearly struck a nerve deep within our boy, leaving her in silence. The white-haired handler gently reassured her, saying it was just an accident, not her fault, and if she hadn't interfered, he would have died at the hands of Young. In a flashback, a man cried sorrowfully, the painful past causing our boy to shut her eyes. But soon, she reopened them, announcing with firm resolve, "I have to go." The white-haired handler abruptly stood, grabbing our boy who was about to leave, angrily asking if she was crazy. He stressed it wasn't the time to help others, reminding her their original goal was to find the chairman's son, not confront the chairman directly, precisely to avoid dragging innocents into their mess. Confronted with the harsh reality and his partner's scolding, the white-haired handler ultimately let out a helpless sigh. Yet, he didn't give up entirely. Instead, he began preparing weapons, reminding our boy that the enemy possessed other, more dangerous armaments. While their current defense was meager, it was better than nothing. In a dimly lit room, the hooded female agent holds a communicator, listening to a warning from the other end. They tell her that even if she tries to stop him, he won't back down, he is unbending. Just then, her silver-haired partner urgently grabs her shoulder, pressing her to remember one thing above all else no matter what: do not kill. Facing her partner's plea, she simply picks up her phone in silence and replies softly that she doesn't want to lose him either. Then, without hesitation, she ends the call. The scene shifts. She appears to have infiltrated the perimeter of a heavily guarded industrial area. Meanwhile, a black-haired man in a suit stands before a building covered in danger signs, coldly issuing orders over his comms. He demands that the security room immediately sweep the area in front of Building A for any signs of illegal entry. Clearly, our agent is walking straight into their carefully laid trap. However, the hunt has already begun. Security receives the report, but on site, one guard is instantly knocked down, while another is thrown violently across the floor by an overwhelming force. Chaos erupts. A calm blonde man whispers urgently to his companion to leave quickly and not look at the disgusting scene, hinting that if that damn thing shows up here, even they'll be in trouble. But the warning comes too late. In a flash, a guard trying to use his comms is violently slammed to the ground, while another who attempts to resist is efficiently choked and pinned down. The intruder is none other than our agent, who swore not to kill. She coldly pins down her final opponent with precise, devastating efficiency. This infiltration is rapidly turning into a one-sided massacre no one anticipated. A mysterious figure in a black mask pins a dark-haired woman to the ground with explosive force, the entire room shaking from the impact. A dark-haired woman pants heavily, her tense expression fixed ahead, as if bearing immense pressure or fear. From another angle, the hooded, masked figure is revealed to be pinning down a suited man who lies motionless beneath them. In a split panel, a woman has tears in her eyes, while another masked figure utters a low, commanding order. "Lead the way!" The scene shifts to near a dimly lit staircase. Daekyung stands with her back to the shadows in her signature dark hoodie, stating, "I know." Before her, a girl with light green hair, wearing a similar top, kneels on the ground, trembling with remorse as she whispers, "I wanted to kill you, that voice. I almost killed an innocent person." Daekyung's voice is calm and direct, cutting to the heart of the matter. "Why do you want to help me? Why? Lee Jae-young?" Daekyung turns her head slightly, a trace of urgency in her tone, as she presses for crucial information. Is he alive? According to the lawyer, it's only attempted murder for now. Enough, take me there. Go back. The green-haired girl leans forward, her eyes full of despair as she resists. While there's still time, all of this is pointless. She articulates their grim reality with fear. The people we're dealing with, they're different from anyone you've met before. They will truly kill us. This is no joke, we will really die. Young suddenly grabs the girl by her collar, cutting off her self-pity with a harsh tone. Shut up and lead the way, coward. You couldn't refuse the weapons those scum offered you. Young's gaze locks onto her through the mask, enunciating each word to expose her cowardice. Yet you could pull the trigger on an innocent person. Young takes a step closer, her words sharp as a blade. If you have even a sliver of sanity left to understand, you shouldn't use your delusions, your pleas to kill, to shift the blame of your own karma onto others. She grabs the other's clothes forcefully, her words laced with a cold realism. When a chance appears, you have to try and seize it, even if it's a rotten rope. With that, she turns and walks down the steps, hands in pockets, leaving behind a final, icy ultimatum. If you want to hide for a lifetime, do as you please. Disappear. However, just as Young is about to leave, the broken girl lunges forward on her knees, desperately clutching Young's leg, weeping and pleading. I don't want to die, I want to live. Please, save my dad. I want. In the dimly lit industrial area, an agonized scream erupts. A gray-haired character, tears streaming down her face, shrieks to kill them all, then incoherently begs for help and forgiveness, her mind clearly on the brink of shattering. A coherent shot of extreme emotional breakdown. The response to her pleas, however, is a silent back. A figure in a dark hoodie stands facing away, showing no reaction, the posture beneath the hood appearing cold and distant. The scene cuts to a filthy hand grabbing another character's, likely the gray-haired woman's, clothing with desperate force. Cold dialogue plays over the action. Sir, we prefer not to get involved with minors. How old will your daughter be when she gets out? We'll try to get her out faster. The words imply a threatening negotiation involving a family member. Conflict erupts violently. Amid a chaotic backdrop of red and black with massive sound effects, a figure is thrown off balance by a powerful impact. The gray-haired woman's pleading screams clash with another character's cruel taunt about not worrying about her daughter's job. The chaos takes clearer form. A figure in dark clothing plummets or is thrown down from above, while a dark-haired character with a topknot in the foreground reels backwards from the shockwave. Amidst the chaos, a furious black-haired young man, his tie and clothes suggesting a student, roars toward the center of the fray with a venomous scowl. Turn on the lights immediately! His command seems to take immediate effect. He stands further back, watching with a ferocious glare as the dark-hooded figure ahead of him clutches their face in agony, reeling from a heavy blow. The tide of battle turns instantly. With a swift, decisive motion, our boy seizes his opponent's clothing, his gaze sharp, and delivers a cold verdict. Got you! He doesn't stop there. The next attack is even more ferocious. Gripping a long weapon with both hands, he thrusts forward, sending his opponent tumbling backward through the air with a resounding impact. Watching his opponent crash away, our boy coldly adds a single, contemptuous word to his declaration. Rat! In a dimly lit industrial area, a dark-haired man is violently pinned to the ground, his head seized by his assailant. He's gasping in pain, completely immobilized. Then, the attacker unleashes brutal force, slamming the man into the concrete with a sickening impact. But the assailant isn't finished. He swiftly crawls towards his next target, a woman with pale gray hair, who's lying on the ground in sheer terror. The attacker unflinchingly seizes the gray-haired woman by the throat, pinning her down mercilessly. Tears of pain and fear well up in her wide eyes. He yanks her up by the hair, forcing her to look at him, his words now icy mockery and interrogation in Russian. Terrified, little one? You dared to come here alone? He even laughs coldly, his voice dripping with contempt for what he deems a walking corpse. A cold flash of steel, the bloodied blade slashes through the air with lightning speed. In the next moment, a figure is sent flying by a tremendous force, crashing to the ground. The attacker watches coldly, a cruel smirk on his lips. Yet, a vague silhouette has now appeared in the dim corridor in the distance. The attacker's onslaught continues. He swiftly subdues another girl in a pink hoodie amidst the chaos. Then, he presses the knife firmly against the gray-haired woman's neck, issuing a final ultimatum to the distant threat. Are you all in this together? He bellows. If you don't want to watch her die, Stay right there. The focus shifts to the gray-haired woman with the blade at her throat. Blood seeps from her lips, yet her gaze holds an eerily calm resolve. She speaks softly, her voice weak but carrying a frosty certainty, as if confirming the attacker's words. Yes, this does suit you more. Simultaneously, a voice filled with fury and terror rings out from the darkness. Saiyan, do not touch my daughter. Cornered by a knife-wielding male assassin, the black-haired woman's face is filled with terror as she desperately cries for help, demanding to know if she hired him. However, the assassin simply orders her coldly to drop the weapon and stay put. Just then, the woman unexpectedly raises her hands, a trickle of blood at her lips as a contemptuous smile spreads across her face. She mocks the assassin for selling his life for money without bothering to research who he was dealing with. She continues, stating she knows exactly where she is. She's seen true knife masters at headquarters, and the assassins here are second-rate, only good for being used as human shields. This blatant disdain finally enrages the assassin, who curses and launches a vicious high kick. At the critical moment, a figure streaks in like a phantom from the side. With a shout of, "Get away!" An acrobatic flying kick intercepts the assassin's attack with pinpoint precision, shielding the threatened woman. The ambusher is none other than our protagonist, Daekyung Lee. The moment she lands, a flurry of attacks begins. The blades concealed in her leg trace deadly arcs in the facility's dim light. To her companions who try to get her to escape, she yells, "Leave me!" Her mind fixed on a singular goal, to eliminate these three enemies completely. Daekyung's figure darts through shadows and light at high speed, chasing down the routed enemies. Her fighting stance is calm yet overwhelmingly oppressive. Elsewhere in the battlefield, a bald gunman looks down, taunting Daekyung. He questions how she can think of revenge when she has so many attachments to exploit. In the shadows, the mastermind's name is whispered, Shin Manhwa, and also Lee Daekyung. Upon hearing her own name, Daekyung freezes in place. An expression of disbelief flickers across her face as she whispers, "Why?" The bald gunman and his companion stand at a vantage point, smirking as they train their guns on the now disoriented Daekyung, repeating that fatal question, "Why?" Daekyung crumples weakly to the ground. The bald man looming over her issues a final order. She and her companions are to disappear. Under a harsh spotlight, Daekyung's pupils contract violently. Faced with that icy command of banishment, she's struck speechless with shock. Has her carefully constructed undercover identity been completely shattered? In a dark underground hideout, a bald man points his gun at the chained white-haired handler, extending what he calls a proposition to Daekyung. The bald man states bluntly that this is the only way to talk with our girl. He admits his goal is to hunt down the chairman's son. At that moment, the bound handler, the man with glasses, suddenly speaks, questioning if their captor is truly after the chairman's heir. Daekyung sneers, claiming she wants the same thing. This declaration makes the already tense situation even more complex. The handler reveals an inside story. Within the chairman's company, there was actually another, more suitable heir originally. But things got messy after that illegitimate son came out of nowhere. He turns to Daekyung and says meaningfully that despite their different positions, what they want now is actually the same, right? It seems he's trying to recruit her. However, Daekyung doesn't believe a single word he says. She questions why he's making things so complicated. The handler smirks sinisterly, saying the more chaotic things get, the more he can exploit it later. If Daekyung commits more severe crimes, his merit for taking her out will be even greater. He mocks Daekyung's contradictions and threatens her, saying even if she wants to escape, can she? There are plenty of people around her who can be used as hostages. With the sound effect of a fall, the scene transitions to what appears to be a new location. Indoors, a dark-haired woman seems to have experienced something, standing still as she catches her breath with a hand on her chest. However, the peace is shattered by a sudden ambush. A platinum blonde man wearing a multicolored helmet lunges from behind a pillar, attacking with a staff. The attack is abrupt. He shouts, "Lee Daekyung," while simultaneously trying to check on the dark-haired woman's condition, his gaze sharp. But the woman seems to ignore him, turning her back directly, which leaves the attacker bewildered as he yells, "Where are you going?" and asks again if she's okay. The woman walks over to a table on her own and picks up a phone to check it. The screen clearly shows several missed calls from Daekyung. The phone immediately rings again. On the other end, a silver-haired man, the handler, hastily answers while brushing his teeth. Meanwhile, an anxious Han Jong-woon is also on the phone, asking urgently, "Dakyung? Where are you? Is Lee Jae-young alive?" The handler answers the call, calmly asking in return, "Do you know where he is?" hinting that Lee Jae-young might be in a private ward. The scene shifts. Our protagonist has arrived at the imposing gate of a mansion, but is stopped by a brown-haired butler in a suit who tells her, "No outsiders are allowed." However, our protagonist Lee Dakyung doesn't back down. Hands in her pockets, she looks straight at him, stating calmly and clearly, "Please tell Lee Jae-young that Lee Dakyung is here." Elsewhere, in a hospital room, the injured Lee Jae-young is talking to a doctor. At that moment, the door to his room is quietly pushed open. At the mansion's entrance, the butler finally stops, blocking the determined girl's way. They walk inside together. Sunlight streams through the window, falling on a dark-haired young man with his arm in a sling. He looks up at the sound. Standing in the doorway is none other than our protagonist Lee Dakyung, with a bandage on her cheek. She looks at the injured Lee Jae-young and says calmly, "It's been a while." Their complicated reunion has finally arrived. Our girl drops by the hospital to check on the injured Lee Jae-young. Seeing him with his arm in a sling, the mood is heavy. Jae-young remains stoic, claiming that simply being alive is plenty. Something has been bugging our girl, and she finally asks the burning question, why did he step in to save her that day? To her, he's still just an ordinary person caught in the crossfire. Jae-young brushes it off casually, calling it a game or just a bad hunch. He tells our girl not to feel guilty, clearly trying to steer her away from overthinking his motives. Our girl drops a bombshell, declaring she won't be returning to school. She logically points out that surviving that ordeal wasn't luck, it means someone was actively hunting them down. As they discuss the school, word is that security is being dialed up to the max, including metal detectors. It seems the administration is desperate to turn the campus into a fortress. Losing her patience, our girl demands to know who is really after him. She's tired of being left in the dark while being hunted, and she wants the real truth from Jae-young right now. But Jae-young flips the script, his gaze sharpening as he confronts her. He points out that she's all questions and no answers, finally hitting her with the big one. Who are you, exactly? The tension hits a freezing point. Jae-young drops the interrogation for a moment to ask if she came alone. As he reaches for something on the table, a new psychological game seems to be beginning. Inside the hospital room, Jae-young's sharp gaze fixed on Dakyung, pondering if her presence was out of concern or a desire for close surveillance. Dakyung, however, had already made up her mind. Jae-young clearly intended to keep her close, to monitor her every move. Just then, the guards outside discussed a visitor a friend of Jae-young's had arrived. Soon, Han Jong-woon walked in, proposing an astonishing offer to Dakyung. "Why not move in with me?" Sensing Dakyung's hesitation, Jong-woon patiently explained that living at his place would ensure her safety and prevent her current home from being discovered, as he'd handle her school commute. His sincerity, though surprising, resonated with Dakyung. The two continued discussing whether Dakyung should return to school. Jong-woon believed that being in a crowd would actually be safer, allowing her to blend in better. However, in the midst of their conversation, Jae-young suddenly leaned in close to Dakyung, their faces inches apart. This abrupt move made Dakyung's eyes widen in shock, a blush creeping across her cheeks. Just then, Jong-woon walked into the room with a fruit basket, only to see a severely injured Jae-young tightly embracing Dakyung, his head buried in her shoulder, even shedding tears. The sight caused Jong-woon's gaze to deepen. Watching Jae-young hold Dakyung tightly, Jong-woon calmly questioned why he was so readily allowed in, wondering if it was just to witness the scene. Dakyung, too, inwardly pondered Jong-woon's unexpected presence. Jae-young quietly told Dakyung to rest, while Jong-woon playfully remarked, "See? Jae-young can be cute sometimes, even if he doesn't look it normally." He then turned to Dakyung, asking, "What are you doing here?" Dakyung replied that she came to visit. However, Jae-young sharply retorted, "Aren't you here to watch me? To see what I'll do with Lee Dakyung?" Faced with this sudden accusation, Jong-woon's smile froze. Busted, he thought. Just then, Jong-woon notices the bandage on our girl's face. His easygoing expression instantly turned serious, clearly caught off guard by her injury. Despite his concerned questioning, our girl stays calm and tells him to wait outside. She has more pressing matters to handle in this hospital room. Inside the room, a bandaged Jae-young glares intensely at Jong-woon. Our girl cuts straight to the chase, questioning if he was the one who ordered the recent attack. Jae-young brings up the suspicious events at the sports meet, questioning why Jong-woon was near the storage room. To him, such a coincidence feels far too staged. The verbal spar intensifies as Jae-young openly reveals his murderous intent, coldly suggesting that the best way to deal with someone as irritating as Jong-woon is to make them disappear. Just as the tension hits a breaking point, our girl steps in to break the deadlock. She looks Jae-young in the eye and firmly states that Jong-woon is not the one behind the orders. The scene settles in what appears to be a sick room. The light-haired boy calmly states a name Shin Myung-won of the Seiyon conglomerate. This is the scoundrel behind all the schemes targeting our girl. Meanwhile, Shin Myung-won himself is shown elsewhere, wearing an unsettling, knowing smirk, clearly in control of the game about to unfold. Back in the sick room, our girl's head is bowed, her expression frozen as she processes the weight of hearing that scoundrel. The handler in brown can't help but question her about that complicated expression she just had. Jong-woon then picks up the conversation, stating that he should be going. The handler suggests walking out together, but Jong-woon politely asks him to go first, saying he and Dae-kyung haven't finished talking yet. After the handler leaves, he turns back to her, still bound to the bed, bids her farewell, and promises to see her at school. The scene then shifts to a new, opulently furnished room that feels more like a prison. She's on the phone, sounding a bit exasperated as she grumbles about the address, asking since he offered to live together, he should at least tell her where they're going. The camera pans over the empty, gilded cage bedroom, with accompanying text stating the cruel rules. For your safety, please refrain from leaving the house or even this room. Jae-young has accompanied her to this room. When she asks if someone else lived here before, he vaguely replies he doesn't know the details. He instructs her that for any need, she must contact the guard outside the door. With a distinct click, the door is firmly locked in front of her. Meanwhile, back in his safe house, our handler, donning his iconic frog eye mask, receives a call from her. He answers, voice tense. His end is met with shock when he hears her calmly stating she'll be staying at Lee Jae-young's house for a while. Switching scenes, we find Han Jong-woon in a frog eye mask, jotting down notes, while investigating the house's secrets. Despite his goofy look, his warning to stay cautious adds a layer of mystery to his mission. Meanwhile, our girl is fixated on a specific room number when the silence is shattered. Two security guards burst in, looking completely panicked as if something catastrophic has happened inside. The room is in shambles, and our girl is huddled on the floor, seemingly triggered by the color red. Terrified by her traumatic reaction, the guards desperately beg her to leave the scene at once. When offered a new room, our girl starts acting erratic again, screaming about seeing red on a green billiard table. The guards are baffled and frantic, convinced that she's having a complete mental breakdown. But this is all a calculated performance. While she puts on a show of terror, our girl is secretly critiquing her own acting. Using this facade of madness, she creates the perfect distraction to make her move. Seizing the moment, our girl bolts down the hallway, ignoring the guards' desperate shouts. She keeps up the act, screaming about the color red as she sprints through the mansion like a wild horse. To the guards' horror, our girl plunges from the upper level in a daring leap. By using such extreme measures, she finally breaks through the tight security, but where will this risky escape lead her? As the guards upstairs on the balcony are still panicking, asking how she could have jumped from the second floor, our infiltrator has already silently slipped into the target room. She cautiously surveys the heavily guarded study, surprised to find it's a library-like office filled with books. She silently wonders why this guy reads so much. To search for clues, she heads straight to the bookshelves, carefully examining them to find the least dusty, most likely frequently read volume. But just as she's concentrating, a cold voice suddenly rings out from behind, freezing her in place. It's the guy, Lee Dae-kyung, and he doesn't look happy at all. His interrogation puts her on edge. She can't figure out how he got in, as there was only one entrance under heavy watch. It seems impossible. Grabbing her wrist, he orders her to return to her room immediately. But our infiltrator feels a surge of dread, a strong feeling that if she backs down now, she might be trapped here forever. In the tense standoff, a vague memory of an embrace suddenly flashes in her mind. And then she does something unexpected. Instead of resisting, she abruptly headbutts Dae-kyung in the jaw. Later, her silver-haired comrade offers unique commentary, praising the headbutt as a brilliant move. He teaches her that in relationships between men and women, reason and logic don't solve everything sometimes. Direct physical action is more effective. The impact was solid. Dae-kyung groans in pain. And the one who dealt the blow, looking at his pained expression up close, finds her own face heating up for some reason. A girl on the verge of a breakdown is seen crying alone, terrified of being in the room yet unable to hold back her tears. At the same time, A mysterious man with green eyes seems equally tormented by his own heavy emotions. The scene shifts to a study-like environment where the girl appears, a bandage on her face hinting at recent conflict. Suddenly, a man with visible wounds bursts in and yells, "Run!" at her, leaving her stunned. Confused by the warning, the girl can only stare in bewilderment. However, the man seems to realize something isn't working and quickly turns and strides out of the study. By the time she comes to her senses and tries to understand, it's too late. Two men in formal attire quickly close in from both sides, blocking her path against the bookshelf. She's trapped. This chaotic memory fades. In reality, our boy lies exhausted on a bed, reflecting on what seems like a complete failure of her plan. A doctor with brown hair enters with a gentle smile, hoping to talk. The psychiatrist patiently offers to be a listener and reveals that Jae-hyung is very worried about you. But our boy responds coldly, telling the doctor to relay that if Jae-hyung has something to say, he should come say it himself. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the mansion, the man with green eyes is clearly under great stress. He monitors our boy's movements while deeply regretting that he may have gone too far. At this tense moment, a shocking image flashes on the surveillance feed. Our boy is climbing through a window. The man on monitoring duty immediately sounds an emergency alarm. The alarm triggers a rapid response throughout the mansion. Security personnel quickly gather and try to enter the room, only to discover it's been locked from the inside. From beyond the door, strange, ominous sounds can be faintly heard. As tension hung in the air, a serious-looking black-haired man holding a folder burst into the room, calling out, "Lee Dik-young." The intruder stood before the window, a blue guard on his left arm, his sharp gaze fixed to the side, as he gravely asked, "Sir, do you need protection?" Faced with this sudden intrusion, our girl herself remained remarkably calm, simply leaning casually against the doorframe with a faint, knowing smirk. However, she wasted no time in breaking the silence, her tone cold as she issued a clear order. "If you're here, take the camera you brought with you."